Thank you all for coming to the debut of our two-man show, Comatose. We are opening exclusively on the TCB podcast, but it will debut on Broadway next month. Please hold your applause to the end. Scene. Ghost Gaming's RLCS manager has been in a coma since the end of the RLCS Season 9 regular season in March 2020. His assistant waits patiently for his boss to wake up every day. Ah.
Sir, can you hear me?
Oh, where am I?
You had an accident. You've been unconscious for over 2 years.
Oh my god. What happened while I was gone?
What's the last thing you remember?
SSG had just won out the regular season of RLCS. And oh my, I had figured out the next NA super team.
Sir, I'm not sure you're the most up to...
So you take Shock from the Sonics, right? He's been the best player in NA, and he's not from a big org, so we might be able to buy him out. Then you get Hoxer. That's the key. We can call them Shoxer. E United is coming off a bad season, so he has star potential, and we might be able to get him for cheap.
Well, he hasn't really had the best couple of seasons, and he's not on E United anymore.
And finally, Chef's Kiss, Lion Blaze.
The kid from Salt Mine?
Yep, he's the next big thing. Gonna be better than First Killer.
I don't know if this is a great idea.
Make it happen.
Yes, sir.
And then get me on the phone to Europe. I want to talk to the managers and make a team of Fruity, Freaky, and Tadpole.
If you say so.
And scene. Applause rings out from the rafters. Roses on the stage. Oh my. I can see it now. Definitely not tomatoes.
Flying. Tomatoes flying. All at Austin. Roses are directed at me.
This could be your big break, honestly.
Oh, yes.
But welcome to episode 29 of the Talkin Carball podcast, where 29. We obviously, yeah,
it is crazy. May. We started this in what, September, August?
Yeah, roughly
like a year.
When we hit a year, when we hit 50 episodes, that is going to be insane. It's probably going to be right around a year, honestly. But yeah, obviously we only talk about Rocket League in a very professional and concise sense. I thought about trying
content here.
I thought about trying to incorporate Roldas in there and then somehow saying he was on the second best podcast about Rocket League, but the script was getting a little long.
Yeah, you can credit Austin with that entire script. I just played a part. He was the director, writer.
Oh. But obviously we're gonna have to talk to Ghost about Ghost a lot on this episode, because although that is a completely a meme script, what they did this weekend somehow wasn't a meme. And when you think about it, like in that context, like how is, oh my god, we just got to get into the action. What even is North America? What is Europe?
This is gonna be a long one. Strap in, boys.
All right, take us to the news.
All right, so if you've been living under a rock, you will be the only one who doesn't know that the roster of Queso has been released. They have 99% been bought out by some type of bigger organization. Mm-hmm. There has been, there's just been tons and tons of Cloud9 bait to the point that I'm almost convinced that it's actually Cloud9.
So much of the, like, okay, we're not strangers to C9 baiting the Rocket League scene. Oh my gosh, they just farm the Rocket League scene for impressions.
They do, but I don't know. Somehow I'm still almost convinced that it's them.
I mean, like, who else would it even be?
I don't know. People have thrown out a ton of options. I don't know enough about orgs outside of the Rocket League scene
Hmm.
to guess,
Yeah.
but
I mean, C9 is very much primarily an NA org in most games they participate in. But as we've seen in the past like couple months with orgs really wanting to get involved with Rocket League, that regional biases or whatever doesn't matter. So it could literally be anyone at this point, but I think you're right. It's going to be a bigger org than Queso, which still leaves a lot of orgs on the table, but I think a lot of people they would gain a lot of fans if C9 came back.
yeah,
And I've seen some people talk about like it's not a big deal like having big orgs like look at FaZe like and how they barely even like acknowledge the Rocket League team. There still are a lot of people who came over to Rocket League and got exposed to Rocket League just by being like FaZe fans, especially with their grid stream broadcast they had last year with Scissors. So if you
yeah,
don't see this as an immense positive having a massive org come pick up one of the most talented teams in the world, I'm sorry.
yeah. And same thing in France with Carmine Corp. I think Nolly picked up like
Yeah.
thousands of followers
Yeah.
after getting signed.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely insane. Don't even need to speak the language.
Yeah, it's nuts. We have some other news to get through. I'm expecting an announcement from the org that signed Queso before Friday because
Hmm.
they have to do an org broadcast on Friday. So sometime before then, maybe even by the time this podcast comes out, uh, you'll know, and you can just skip this part anyway.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
hopefully it's exciting.
Hopefully. Moving on, Age Light acquires the NIMT 55 roster in APAC, a roster that qualified for the APAC qualifier last split, wasn't able to play, but definitely a top contender in the APAC North region.
South. Wait, no, north. You're right. You're right. You're right.
I
You're right.
was right
Yeah,
this
yeah,
time.
yeah. You
I
were
was
right
like,
this time.
I'm pretty sure I'm right on this one.
Yeah. But they are third in the APAC standings right now,
Oh,
despite
because
having not.
Detonator.
Yeah, yeah. Despite having not attended the major, but also just shows that they've had consistency over the span of the fall and winter that they're able to be that competitive without having actually attended the major.
Yes. Um, we also had Aquadome is the current, possibly temporary, map for game twos in official matches. Because of the thing I think we talked about it, where Forbidden Temple has inconsistent corners that aren't the same as other maps.
Hmm.
And then they had used Urban Central, but some players, especially I think it was Blaze, complained that he's colorblind, and Urban Central has some major issues for colorblind players.
Hmm.
So they switched over to Aquadome, which I like Aquadome. I think it's one of those maps that looks really cool for new players, and then as you slowly lose your soul, you enjoy the maps with no personality. Um, but it seems to have helped Rogue and Aqua have a good performance. So,
Just wait till Fisher comes up next regional.
oh, oh god, Rogue, three. Wait, no, 3-1 on Aquadome in
the
the
uh,
in the regional.
the water buff is real.
Yeah. We have a couple roster org moves in OCE. Power picks up the former Ground Zero roster of Express, Amphis, and Torsos, and Ground Zero then moves over to Attack of the Invisible Ninjas of Tango, Walcott, and Spy Doge.
Yeah, I in the order on the docket, you put the Ground Zero announcement over the Power one, and I liked how you tactically chose to announce the Power one before the Ground Zero one because that is slightly more impactful.
uh, well, I put the news in the doc in reverse order of what when it happens based on I
Mm.
just scroll through Reddit and put things in, so it's all in backwards order, so sometimes I go out of order.
uh, but the power signing is actually one of my favorite signings we've had in Rocket League for a long time. For those of you who don't know, Power is like a huge content organization in OCE, like started by a really famous Fortnite YouTuber. And so them coming to NA to pick up a bubble team centered around Forky didn't really make sense. Them transitioning to Ground Zero makes perfect sense. I think we're gonna get a lot more content. Even like their announcement video was like super hype and like super like well made. So I'm hoping that they're gonna dive into Rocket League. And obviously they're picking up an absolutely class team in the former Ground Zero boys.
Yeah. Do they still have John Sandman?
Uh I would guess so. I haven't heard anything otherwise, but that that would make a heck of a like. I guess I don't know if they do day one broadcast there. I'm sure they do.
Uh, they probably do. I don't know. I watched some of day one and some of day three, but I didn't go to any org broadcasts, just the main one.
Okay, yeah. I either way. I think John. I haven't heard anything about that otherwise. But granted, I don't really follow John Sandman's org hopping that closely.
Yeah, same. Um, other news, Veloce has returned to the Rocket League scene. They signed the empty roster in Middle East of Senzo, Twiz, and SMW.
Actually, one of the coolest esports decals. They might remake it, but their OG one is absolutely class. So,
Well, we never even got a Sandrock decal, so
but all they have to
I
do
know
is just bring it back. It's
I'm
already
not
there.
holding out hope for Middle East decals anytime soon.
Okay, well, I can still wear it in Bacchus and represent.
Yes, yes. Um, and then in an interesting move, after failing to qualify for the first regional, XSET has signed a young 14-year-old Evo as their sub spot. He is not allowed to play in the next qualifier, but could technically play in the next event, although that would mean XSET forfeits all of their points.
Whew. Um, that is interesting.
I mean, they're not going to make worlds. They're probably not going to make the LAN after missing the first regional. Maybe they're trying to set something up for next season.
Yeah, that's how I interpreted it. It was kind of like the the legendary heard around the world like Drowley signing on
Yeah,
KCD, where they were just sort of like picking up a top talent before he actually turned of age. That'd be kind of wacky. I'm not gonna lie. To only give them one event and then immediately sort of bomb everything for Evo. But you're right. I mean, they're not going to Worlds, and at this point, they're not qualifying for the Spring Major. So there's absolutely nothing lost. But
yeah. Also, maybe they're hoping that whatever they pay for Evo, if he pops off, maybe they can make the money back if some bigger org wants to buy him out.
hmm I mean, I've heard he's the truth. I think Garrett said he's going to be the best to ever do it, or something like that. That's probably a hyperbole, but it was extremely high praise. So
Yeah. Who on Xset do you think he subs in for? J-Pow, Percy, Rapid?
that's the other thing about it that doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, I guess like in the Rocket League classic of kicking the player who's been there the longest just so you can recycle a new team every year. You'd get rid of JPOW, but we didn't really get to see them play, so I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah. I'm assuming they won't get rid of Rapid having just signed him.
Yeah.
So,
Plus his NFT
and,
portfolio.
and he's 7'5". Um, yeah, that's the news we have.
Yeah. Great cap.
Yep. I'm the best at transitions. And a regional one, the Verizon 5G Ultra Cup.
We are also paid by Verizon.
Um, This is this can't be the first Verizon tournament. It has to be like the third one, right?
Yeah, at least this is the only. I think it's the first Verizon 5G tournament though.
Oh yeah, 5G is definitely real.
It's melting your brain.
Yes, yes, it is.
Shout out to Waffle House guy.
um,
Uh,
but let's go through this. We had a double elimination bracket. G2 won, skipping to the very end.
mhm.
G2 continues their run of form. NRG continues their lack of form. That's the main points, and let's get into the meat of it all. You want to just
I
get it
do
on the line?
I do have a question sort of pertaining to what you just highlighted.
Okay.
If G2 continue to be this good and NRG don't get their stuff together, will anyone be able to stop G2? Because it feels like in the past couple splits, the only thing keeping G2 from being the best team in North America has been the fact that they always play a really exciting series but end up losing in Game 7 to NRG. And now, how are they ever going to get bounced out of the upper bracket?
I would say, I don't know, maybe G2's biggest weakness comes back to bite them, and that is themselves.
True. That is a G2 classic.
But I mean, right now they're the best team in their region.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are teams that can compete with them. For some reason, they've struggled a lot against version 1.
Mm-hmm.
This last split. Space Station took a series off them in the grand finals.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe FaZe can do something. I don't know.
They're also 0-4, I believe, in Game 7 since signing Atomic.
Yes.
And in the Series 1 of the Winter Major against Queso in the grand finals, they absolutely choked that Game 7. And then the Game 7 here against Space Station, they got blown out like 7-0. So there have been slight chinks, but they've been very few and far between. Sorry, I didn't mean to get distracted, but just like...
key is get them to Game 7.
Yeah. Yeah, it just... Looking at this is almost impossible.
But apparently they're good in Game 5 because they beat Friends in Game 5. Don't think it probably should have gone to Game 5, but they did get it done.
Yeah. Sort of feels like the classic where the team coming off a really great result is sort of matched up against a very, very low seed team and doesn't quite come out firing on all cylinders. That would have been hilarious if Friends had taken down G2 Esports, but unfortunately that's not the reality we live in.
Yeah. G2 expected to win a little closer than we thought, but they do pull it out.
Also, if that result had gone through, I would have just given up on predicting anything ever.
Oh, yeah.
I would have quit.
Our probably highest, what's the word I'm looking for? Pedigree? I don't think that's the right word, but you get the point. Pedigree matchup between end of the first round between Envy and Complexity.
Mm-hmm.
The two biggest names that played each other, I think, coming in at least. Complexity wins 3-1.
Yeah, I didn't get to see this game just because it's day one and there's 50 games going on all at once.
Yes.
And I'll get more into that later, but all 3 games that they decided to broadcast on their first day were NRG.
Did they really?
Yeah. So I watched the VOD afterwards and I was like, I don't really want to focus on NRG negativity. And then I was just forced to only watch them play. But yeah, I didn't get to see NB Complexity. Probably was a good series.
Probably. I didn't watch it either. I was focused on the version 1 broadcast. Yeah. Which version 1 against all mid won 3-1. They perfect swept them if you ignore Game 3 where they lost 4-3.
Great stat, Colin.
Thanks. Version 1 looked a little shaky, I think, across the whole day or whole event, but did take care of business against an inferior opponent. Got the job done in round 1. Now, a team that did not take care of business Team NRG swept by Ghost Gaming. Not a good look. Is NRG washed? Question mark.
No, but we also are only calling our business segment Bidness from now on.
We don't have a business section anymore.
Yeah. But me being forced to be the energy analyst for the day. this series was kind of like classic sort of like what I was talking about with G2 where the better team sort of comes out of sleep. In particular, just rotational mistakes between Squishy and Garrett, which you almost never see. I think in particular, Garrett had a really rough series. And so it was the sort of thing where I was like, bad series, Ghost shows up super hot, obviously honeymooning if you look further on into the tournament, and not to think too much of it. But so after watching this, I wasn't particularly worried, is what I'll end that rambling statement on.
Okay. I don't know if you read Justin's tweet longer either, but I think they've been trying to adjust their play style and might not be. They might not have worked out all the kinks in their new play style yet.
Yeah, this is completely anecdotal, just something I've noticed from having to watch a lot of Energy Rocket League. And this goes back to the fall major, or not the fall major, the winter major, where I feel like their demo numbers went way up. But I feel like they have very much have a losing win percentage. They have a negative win percentage. Is that the right phrase?
Low win percentage.
They have a low win percentage when they have more demos than the opposing team, which just means they're not getting a lot of value on it. Like you said, they haven't worked out the kinks where if you look at version 1, it feels like almost every goal they score is off the back of a demo. So I don't know. I don't know what energy really needed to change, to be honest, but if they can add one more tool to their toolkit without sacrificing too much, it's not the worst thing.
Yeah. Continuing on, we'll talk more about Ghost later and probably Energy later, but moving on through the first round, FaZe beats Accelerate in classic FaZe form, loses one game randomly, and then comes out and blows them out in the other games.
I think we called the Brazil when we previewed this.
It's just classic FaZe. An upset that's not really an upset. Rogue finally beats Sonics.
Let's go! What an underdog story.
What an underdog story. Sonics, not a great tournament for them. They go 0-2, drop out. Rogue, possibly, I wouldn't say their best tournament ever, but in terms of placement, but in terms of the results they got, definitely one of their best this season.
Yeah. Especially if you look at this run in the upper side of the bracket, beating Sonics, who, like you mentioned, have been their demons for pretty much the entirety of RLCS 3, and then going game 5 against FaZe, who always just rocks teams lower than them. That looked really good, and I was really, really excited for their matchup against NRG, but we'll talk about that more later.
Yeah. SSG looked really good this weekend. They took down a crew who also, were solid this weekend. So no small feat for them sweeping them 3-0. Oxygen proving that they're better than Charlotte, but maybe not as consistent. They're not going to get the same top 6 every time that they did in the last split.
Yeah, I also just feel like NA as a region is better. Like the top 5 is still like just as good, and like the big movements happened last time, but the bubble, well, that's not really the bubble, but like the 6 through 12, I feel like
Major bubble.
the major bubble is stronger this season, so that's going to be more difficult for them.
I guess we'll go in order of games played, which goes to the upper second round because they didn't do the lowers till after or something. So G2 Complexity. G2 is still the best team in NA. They win 3-1. This is still on Team Stream, so sorry if we don't get too into these, but we don't have all day to sit around and watch every VOD of every game that wasn't shown.
Yeah.
So what's the term? Scoreboard Steven it?
Yep. Scoreboard Steven analysis.
Yeah. Yes. Scoreboard Steven analysis.
Casted by Colin Achieves.
Yes. Yeah, we can see the casters.
Sure, it was a great call.
Yeah. So that must have been on the main broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
Version 1 versus Ghost was the next one, and I did watch this one. Ghost sweep 3-0, and I forget if it was Lawler or Supersonic that made this comment, but I definitely agreed with it. Ghost looks so frustrating to play against. Their playstyle is just like a little bit weird. They're just kind of in a weird spot sometimes. They low 50 still. They just win 50s. They're there. They shoot well. This was a closer series. All three games were 1 goal. Games 2 overtimes, but Ghost does beat V1 and clinch top 6 on day 1.
Yeah, massive. And we were talking about whether or not Ghost could replicate their fall form, and they did that and then some this weekend, which to me was a pretty big shock.
Good one.
Yeah, thanks. I knew the pun was coming, but I couldn't stop it because I couldn't think of another word. But yeah, you're right, and it feels almost very reminiscent to that fall where they were a very irritating and weird team to play against.
Yes. FaZe Rogue. Did you catch this one?
I did not.
Sag.
Yeah.
Close series, game 5, overtime. Rogue wins on Aquadome.
This is one I'd like to, just as a Rogue fan, I'd like to catch the VOD for, because I'm very curious, because when they played Energy, they looked very sloppy, and I guess that, like, if you were to play like a top tier team and look kind of sloppy and be able to get away with it, it would probably be FaZe Clan. But I think that that's honestly one of the best results that this Rogue roster has had, is taking FaZe to game 5.
Yes. Next game up, we have SSG Oxygen, a classic, not really rivalry, but I feel like every time they play, it goes the distance, and Space Station always wins, which happened again.
Yeah.
Alternating games the whole way. Space Station comes out and Brazils them in game 5, similar to Space Station in game 7 of the grand finals.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be, I feel like Oxygen does a really good job of taking the best teams the distance, but it just feels like they always come just like slightly short, and that's probably what's going to keep them on the bubble qualifying for majors.
Yeah, they're just, I don't know. They're definitely in that 6 to 10 range, but I don't know if they have the upper level to crack into the top 5.
Yeah, and I feel like this format's going to be really hard. It's just, it can be very easy to get a bad draw and you get bounced quickly because it's only double a limb.
Yeah. I feel like this Oxygen roster, as compared to like what they had in RLCS and the fall split, is better as a whole. They will get more points every split, but they have a lower peak, because for some reason that roster with Krasix was able to get like top 4 at an event, where they might not be nearly as consistent because they also missed plenty of events, but they had the ability to just go nuts.
Yeah, so you're saying is like the floor has raised, but the ceiling has also dropped a little bit. And so
Yeah, but the floor raised way more than the ceiling dropped.
Yeah, and that's also more important, honestly, than the ceiling, is consistency. But then you're sort of depending on one of the big teams to slip up.
Yeah. Lower round, Envy swept Friends. Tough draw for Friends. Going G2 to Envy. I didn't get to watch any of them, but I assume they did well with that game 5 against G2. Energy does take care of business versus all mid.
Main broadcast, by the way.
I don't know why. I would have rather watched a Crew Sonics.
Yep.
which was a Game 5 matchup, or even Adept or Accrue, Charlotte. But Accelerate beat Sonics in Game 5. Tough draw for Sonics after they had a great close qualifier. Apparently that means nothing
Yep.
in the event because what Rogue barely squeaked through.
I think this is the best we've seen from Accelerate. Maybe.
Yeah. Also the best we've seen from Accrue. They beat Charlotte Phoenix, a team about on their level.
Yeah,
Accrue trending up. They finally did something when I hyped them up.
they did. I want to pull a stat for you.
Okay.
Um, how many Accrue players do you think are in the top 5 for saves per game?
3.
All 3 of them. They are all 3 above 2.0 saves per game. They played some evil geniuses inspired defense.
The only reason I guessed that one, well, because you asked the question,
Yeah,
and
I baited
2,
it.
I saw on the estimated plus minus that someone puts on Reddit.
Mhm.
They had the anti-phase plus minus stats, where
Uh-huh.
phase normally has like insane offensive stats and horrible defense. The Accrue had horrible defense or horrible offense and insane defense.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up right now. It's not working in goals per game, but all 3 of them are pretty much in around the bottom 10 for goals per game too. So I mean, if that's a play style that they can pull out consistently and it isn't too reliant on hero ball, like that would be exciting to see because this team has been hovering around like the 12th to 16 range for a while, I'd say, and they've never
Yeah.
really been able to compete for a major slot.
Also, something I probably should have done before we would do that first round, but now's as good of a time as any. For predictions, Austin went 2 for 6, correctly guessing the G2 first round win and the V1 first round win. And then he missed the Envy beating Complexity, and he incorrectly guessed that Energy would beat Ghost, and doing so completely chalked his lower bracket matchups because they were impossible.
Yep. Yep, 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 yep.
Uh, my predictions, I got Phase right, Sonic's wrong, SSG right, Oxygen right. Rogue couldn't win in the lowers, but Accrue did, so I went 4 for 6.
And I'm now officially gonna be meme predding. JK, just with my heart.
Yes. Where are we at? Let's go to lower round 2.
Hmm.
Um, so Team Envy beats Oxygen. They do a lot. They do 4 rounds on team streams.
Yeah, it's
We're going
it's a
through a lot of
lot.
these that I didn't see.
And this bracket is also just a lot.
Yeah.
Because normally like day one, like sort of like all happens, and you can just sort of like process all the information. It's sort of like clear standings. But in terms of like recapping, this is pretty brutal.
Yeah, this is rough. Um, we might have to figure something else out for.
We persevere nonetheless.
Yes. So Team Envy beats Oxygen 3-2. Good to see Envy getting a win. From what I heard, Alu was a god this
Mhm.
weekend.
Yeah, especially we'll talk about the next matchup, but against Rogue, he was a menace, and I heard good things about him all team. I actually really like this new look Envy team. I think they were up there in goals per game, which is sort of a surprising statistic. From what you'd sort of think about when you think about these players on paper. Um, but I feel like this is kind of like a new age rivalry from the winter split between Envy and Oxygen. Seemed like they always go the distance, but last split it felt like Oxygen took it every time.
Yeah. Unleashed Alu gets the
Hmm.
dub though.
Hmm.
Um, Rogue Energy. Rogue completes the sweep.
Yeah.
3-0.
I watched this both as a Rogue fan and a resident energy expert, and very similar to the Ghost series, Energy beat themselves. I was really sad because I didn't get to watch Rogue on day one and was so excited to see new Rogue on day two, hoping to see an evolution in Aqua and the team in general, and it's the same old crap. And somehow Energy managed to lose that when it seems all you need to do to dismantle Rogue is a hard clear. But a big result for the boys. And Energy are in it's going to take a lot for them to qualify for the spring major. And at that point, they're going to be limping into Worlds. So this is a really, like, even just purely like, oh, like this is a bad result. Like this could kind of chalk a lot of their season.
They're pretty much guaranteed for Worlds. So
Yeah.
they're 90% making that, no
Mm-hmm.
matter like what happens. But getting this 9th, 12th here hurts them in both the points and the seeding. They're going to come into next event with I haven't done the math, but they're going to be a low seed. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to have a tough matchup early on.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to really need to pull something together, do something like what Furia did in Sam last split, where they really bounce back and have two good events
Yeah.
if they want to make major.
It's a whole lot easier in Sam though.
Yes.
But obviously, I mean, they have the caliber. What last split did they even miss a top two?
No.
So obviously they can win these events and they have the consistency to make it, but it doesn't look likely. I don't know. Like, do you feel like they're gonna bounce back and they're gonna be at that major?
Obviously, they need to figure something out. Something needs to change or maybe go back to the way it was.
Yeah.
They seem motivated to figure it out, so I'm not one to bet against them, but
Hmm.
they do have to figure it out.
Yeah, I think it's more of like a play style thing, like you said, them trying to implement something new and that just sort of bringing out mistakes. And I don't know if these growing pains are worth like the time lost in these events. I mean, Justin still was, I think, was like top 3 or so in Octane rating, so that at least never
Yeah,
changes. And the
yeah.
caliber of player hasn't changed. They're not washed. That's the dumbest take ever, but they are sort of in a weird spot.
I never thought the players were washed. Maybe the team as a whole.
Yeah. Well,
Um.
go on.
Oh. No. I was gonna move on.
I was just gonna say, like, after the winter major, I was not worried one bit. I mean, they had a tough group, got shocked by Furia, got absolutely dunked on by Saiku. That happens. You draw Queso in the lower bracket. Crap. They're possibly the best team in the world. Like, that is not a worrisome result. Getting swept by Ghost and Rogue, especially that second one, Rogue, is a worrying result.
Yeah. All right. Moving on because we have a
Mm,
lot to cover today.
yeah.
V1, after losing game one to Accelerate, pulls the win. They did have to wait forever for this series because tons of technical difficulties in Rocket League private matches
Hmm.
and that Accrue Sonics matchup. But V1 does get the win. And then Accrue beats. Did I say Accrue? I meant Accelerate before. I can't keep them straight. Accrue beats Complexity. Good, very good result for them. Wins game 5, 2 overtimes in a row, and 4 and 5 to get an upset. Complexity. Again, same as Energy. Tough spot to make major. I have less faith in Complexity doing it than Energy. So,
Yeah. You look at the result against G2, can't really fault them for that. This is pretty rough. Obviously, a crew, very much a ShamWow type team that can absorb anything. And that's, on paper, not the greatest matchup for Complexity. I feel like if they played them again, they'd be able to adapt and put in more goals. But yeah, you're right. That's a tough road ahead. And if they don't qualify for the major, and you look at a team like V1 who has the potential or at least a better chance of also making it like whatever teams can qualify for 2 majors are probably going to be almost guaranteed a world spot.
yeah.
Any team that only makes 1 major would have to make a crazy deep run.
Or hope that NA absolutely destroys in London and that like they get an extra like 3 slots.
Yeah, I'm not
that
gonna
world.
pretend that I understand the wild card ways.
I understand it, so I'll explain it when the time comes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Moving on. Team Envy beats Rogue. Do you want to talk about this one?
Like I was talking about with NRG's inability to exploit Rogue's weaknesses, Envy had absolutely no difficulties doing that. Illusion is a 50 machine, and I actually like we were talking about this Envy roster not necessarily being like there's not a whole lot of improvement between Illusion and Turbo, but I think that they looked energized and hype. I think they were boot camp together. And so I have as far as the first tournament goes, I think this was successful for Envy. And Rogue at this point, they're not really going to qualify for anything. So this isn't a drastic result, but I would have liked to see them put up a better fight.
Yeah, I mean Envy right now, top six. They're tied for that major spot with V1 right now.
Yeah, those are the two teams, and they both got bounced in the same stage. So it's going to be a tight race going forward.
Yeah. Version one, a crew V1 came out not great, going down 0-2, losing two to one games. They bounce back, get the reverse sweep done. Version one actually scored the first goal in every game of this series, and the crew was able to come from behind in games one and two, but could not do it in three, four, and five.
Almost got destroyed by the tooth wheels.
Yeah. You know what I think is really going to hurt V1's morale.
Mm.
Looking back at this event,
Mm-hmm.
you know who led in demos per game?
Who?
Not Calm. It was actually, I believe, Gyro.
Interesting.
So Calm will be upset about that. But V1 does reverse sweep a crew. Great result for the crew. Really fighting for a top six spot a game away. So good improvement from them.
With the fewest goals per game as a team in the whole tournament.
Yes. Not helped by this series where they scored 6 goals in 5 games.
Yeah, that was every series for them.
Moving back up to the upper semis, we have Ghost versus G2. Ghost's upper bracket miracle run comes to an end when they run into the best team in NA. G2 takes care of business. Ghost does call a timeout and get a win after. I think someone saw a stat that I don't even know what. I think it was just for this event, maybe. But
Mm-hmm.
teams are like 5-2 after calling a timeout.
Yeah,
So
which we won't write it quite yet, but that is a great segue to the next series. But G2 continue to dominate Ghost. I think it was Stax was saying before the series that both Shock and Hoxer are either like 0-8 and 0-9 against G2 in their career.
oh
And
god.
Lion Blaze, I believe, is like 1-8 or 1-7. And so I don't know what else to say there other than this series was probably chalked before it started, but the timeout buff is real.
Yeah, especially in the FaZe SSG series. SSG wins the first 2 games, scoring 5 goals. FaZe calls a timeout, gets the not quite reverse sweep. What do we call this? The
Ah.
half reverse sweep,
Yes, yes.
half reverse sweep, winning games 3 through 6, only allowing 2 goals in that entire process.
Yeah. This is one of my new favorite matchups in all of Rocket League. I think whenever these two teams play, it's a banger. It's probably the most scrappy matchup we have, especially in North America, just between Arsenal, Reddles, and First Killer. The demos per game is just ridiculous. Uh, and it's a very momentum heavy series, which I think it was really smart of FaZe to call that timeout. A little questionable by SSG to not at any point, but I'm not going to pretend to understand the psychology of what goes into a professional Rocket League team. But like especially after that OT loss, it feels like a mental reset probably was needed.
If you look ahead, skipping ahead a little bit, in the lower finals
Mhm.
started the same way. SSG won the first two games. FaZe called a timeout, won game three. SSG immediately calls a timeout and wins games 4 and 5.
That was
They're like,
actually
we're not letting this happen again.
I was gonna bring that in as a talking point actually. The idea is we always talk about, like, how you probably shouldn't let more than 2 games slide in a row without calling a timeout. And I was gonna ask you what you thought about the idea of immediately calling a timeout after the other team makes an adjustment just to stop the bleeding before it even starts. And,
I don't hate it.
it got pretty good practical application. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Es- Especially for Space Station, which I think are one of the most, like, momentum swayed teams.
Yeah.
They're just very, very emotional and just like their style is either working or it's not. And I think taking the time to iron out those kinks is a really smart call.
Yeah. Um, Taking a few steps back, we have Ghost versus Team Envy. Ghost secures their top four, beats Team Envy pretty cleanly, 4-1.
Yeah. Held Envy to only 6 goals. It was a very, very impressive performance. And I think that this was sort of obviously a lot of what they did earlier proved they were a real deal. The win over Energy was more so Energy not playing well. I didn't get to see the version 1 results. But this was the one where they go head to head with one of their peers in a high pressure situation. And this is a massive result for any chance of going to the spring major.
Yeah, they're in the driver's seat right now, ahead of Energy, ahead of V1, ahead of Oxygen, ahead of Envy.
Yeah. Which is a cool
There's to
place to
lose.
be. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, we can skip lower bracket two. I
Mhm.
actually turned this off after game about a minute into game three, so I knew it was over. V1 did not have it. They just didn't have it, and SSG stomped them. It
Yeah.
was bad.
You let Space Station get rolling, especially Arsenal this weekend was playing some of the best we've seen him in, I guess, since the Winter Major. That wasn't that long ago, but before that, it felt like it had been a really long time. He continued that, and this team is just dangerous. I think they found a new level in Los Angeles.
Apparently, the Mustang is good. And shout out to Joyo for unleashing Arsenal.
Yeah.
Um, Lower semis,
Yeah.
or I guess upper finals, I think is the next matchup
Okay.
chronologically. G2 phase, four straight overtime matchups. G2 wins three of the four, and then wins game five to win the series 4-1. So closer than it looks.
Yeah, and I don't think it was a problem of FaZe not creating enough opportunities. I just really think their shooting wasn't there on Sunday, which kind of seems to be a problem for FaZe. I feel like both AJ go hot and cold when it comes to their placement, and if they're both off on the same day, that's just you can't. First killer can only do so much, which is not really a base take, but I think there's some truth to it.
He can do a lot, but
He
when
can
it
do a
comes
lot.
to versus G2,
G2, yeah,
it's not enough.
no,
Um, SSG Ghost. SSG is just on a tear. Ghost, I think, definitely a strong performance. At this point, ran into a team that was better than them.
yeah. Also, a team that's better than playing dirty than them, which is kind of like not really their trademark, but like if you're gonna try and win like the 50 game, Space Station are about as rough of an opponent you could run into because you're just gonna be
Yeah.
dead.
Good luck winning a 50 when you're not on the field. Lower final space SSG. Now, this is a trend that I think Johnny has pointed out many, many times. The team that loses in the upper finals almost never wins the lower finals.
Hmm.
They just don't. They don't have the momentum. The team coming from the lower finals has just played a series. They've just won. The team from uppers lost their series, then had to sit for a bit, and then come out and play. And the team from lowers just wins almost every time. And Space Station got their revenge. We talked about this a little earlier with the immediate counter timeout. But yeah.
Yeah. And it was sort of similar to the G2 series where the phase shooting just wasn't quite there. It felt like they sort of pieced it all together in game 3, and then Space Station just immediately turned it back around. Once again, really fun to watch, but I think there's a lot of truth to what you just highlighted where, I mean, Space Station are getting a second crack at phase with, the look of vengeance in their eyes, and phase are just kind of like, ah, crap, we just fumbled the bag. Like, how do you really regain from that?
Yeah. FaZe continues to not make grand finals.
7 straight third fourths, I believe.
Including major, right?
Including both majors.
Jesus. They won the first event of the year, correct?
Yep.
And then have been third, fourth every single one since.
Um,
What did they drop? No, they dropped
they
out in Swiss one time.
they
Second.
bombed in the second one, and then third, fourth in the third, fourth, fall, third, fourth.
Most
So
consistent team in A.
6 straight, genuinely.
Yeah. Grand finals. G2's bad on game 7, but overall, first series very exciting, very back and forth. G2 wins 1, SSG 2, G2 retakes the lead, and then SSG wins game 6 and 7. Every game was pretty close except for that game 7. And the two hottest teams on the weekend playing each other, getting that bracket reset, forcing a second series, always exciting.
Yeah, and not only the 2 best teams on the weekend, but the 2 best teams from the winter major coming back and bringing that form when it matters. It's SSG were top 3, right?
Um,
Am I getting them confused with FaZe? I'm like
I
90%
don't
sure
know.
that's true.
They were at least third in NA at
Yeah,
worst.
yeah. But I do think
They
they
both
honestly look.
both teams lost to Queso. That's all I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Queso just that's. I mean, it all blends together because everyone just lost to Queso. But this this was, I mean, pretty much everything you could ask for from a grand finals. If you can take G2 to game 7, you stand a chance. But then again, you have to beat them a second time. So
Yeah,
good luck. They just look so good.
yeah. That is a very long recap.
Yeah.
I don't. This format's hard to break down because I feel like we need to talk and discuss. Each game seems so important,
Hmm.
but the early games we didn't really watch, so it's hard.
Yeah.
Um,
Plus it's just like so many um very hard to scoreboard Steven
yeah,
individual matchups in a bracket.
yes. Um, Awards. Do you have one? Because I don't.
Uh I would like to give the, I guess, tying back our intro. I don't have a name for this award, but like I'm gonna name it the Holy Crap Is It 2019 or 2020 award to
Throwback.
Ghost, throw the Throwback Award to Ghost Gaming. And I'll admit I was wrong when I saw this roster. I was like, yeah, that's fine if Roldas wants to go on to content, and Hoxer's a solid player, but he has not been the hyped top tier player in NA that he was a long time ago for some time now. And they looked like they were on a downward swing. So I did not see a top 4 finish from them coming. So a very well deserved throwback award to Ghost, throwing it back to a time when all 3 players looked like they were the next up and coming thing in NA.
Yeah. Um, I will go for the "Thanks for finally proving me right" award to a crew for finally performing after I say they're good. Because normally I say they're good and then we don't even hear from them for a month.
Yeah.
So thank you for finally giving me something to talk about.
They decided to activate the force field on their net that doesn't allow the ball to go in. Just for
Yes,
you.
yes. Um, Now we're gonna do some major predictions really quickly here, as we will do after every event. What do we think? We got through this pretty quickly. I think there's a few obvious ones.
Yep. G2, they not only now are the best team on the field, but they arguably have the best player on the field in every game they play. Atomic's nuts.
Yes, I'm just gonna go in and throw G2, SSG, and FaZe. They were at the last regional. They're on the best form in NA right now. Um, they're in the lead.
Yeah.
Don't think there's any. Not that there's no way any of these teams miss, but it's unlikely.
Mm. Uh, I'll do it for you. I think V1 are going to make it. I truly believe that they have the talent, like just in terms of pure firepower, to go head to head with anyone in North America. And it's just a matter of finding the consistency. And if the org could just pony up and boot camp them, they'll be the best team in the world.
You know, if they get another top 6 next event, then the ARC boot camps them. They're locked in. They'll have a good performance on boot camp. just gotta stay consistent if they're online. But
No in
right now
worlds.
they are in position. They're not like top 6. I don't think is what they're really shooting for, especially behind Ghost and or tied to the Envy behind Ghost.
Hmm.
But they're definitely more within striking distance than like NRG or Complexity.
Yeah. Their bracket wasn't the hardest, to be honest, but they did sort of get
No,
the most difficult draw between like coming up head against Space Station versus head to head against either Ghost or Envy.
yeah, but that is their own fault for losing to Ghost.
Yep. Yep.
Um, Here's the question: does Ghost hold on?
If you had asked me before the event, I would have said, no way. But I feel bad, like not believing in them after being so wrong about them. But I also
You
really
know
like
what?
this Envy team. Envy looks really good.
But what about the general? I know they're behind,
Oh
but it's
man.
still NRG. Garrett's been to every single LAN. Are we gonna predict that Garrett misses a LAN?
I
I
didn't
don't
even
know if
want
I could do it.
to for viewership, that'd be great.
It'd be yeah. I mean, it's in Europe, so they'll still get the in person attendance good. But
I meant just for the next two NA regionals. We're down bad.
oh
We need
yeah,
we need we need
if we
Squishy to play or else our esport dies.
summon
Um
Musty, that'll revive the esport.
yeah. You want to throw energy in that 5 slot? I'm not mad at it.
I kind of want
It'd
to.
be pretty fun.
Does Ghost stay consistent, or do they like pull a Misfits?
No one pulls a misfits like misfits, so that Ah, I mm, see what I could see happening is I would back Envy to do better in the next event, and then both Ghost and Envy are going to sort of handicap each other, and then Energy's just going to swoop in after having two great performances.
All right, we're going to the same 5 that make it, but different seeding. We have Energy. Probably, if they get in, will be that 5 seed.
I sleep, but yeah.
Um,
In terms of representing NA at the in London, that would be our best crop by far.
yes, yes. I don't know if Ghost will. You know, they did well. I don't know if they would do well against a Team Queso or Dignitas,
I think
but
Hoxer is the only one of them who has RLCS LAN experience too, so they'd be rookies.
um, time for a trip around the world, minor regions time.
Quick trip.
Quick trip. OCE, Power, the newly signed Power roster takes down Renegades. Kaka's Minions gets third.
Former Riot.
Former Riot, yes, they beat the Pioneers in the upper semis, which led to a Renegades Direwolves lower brackets. Renegades beats them. Pioneers
Sad.
beats 3-1-2S. I don't know. So we have Renegades Pioneers in the lower semis. Renegades wins that. They beat Kaka's minions and then lose to Power. It's a long road for Pioneers now if they want to make major. Getting fourth place in OC is almost a death sentence.
Yeah, and there could be a chance that we just see the return to last year. I think both, especially when you consider the end when I think Power then Ground Zero put up a dominant performance and Renegades have just looked so consistent throughout this year. I think you're right. It's going to be real tough, and I'm sad to see that new Direwolves roster. I'm now the world's biggest Direwolves fan. I was expecting them to win this whole event easily. Didn't quite happen that way.
Let's see. Middle East. A different org won.
What?
Team Falcons. It wasn't SRG. It was just all of the same players though. But
Hmm.
good to see Veloce in their turn get second place is at Senzo on a new team.
Yes, sir.
Second place, Cola. Who's Cola? Don't even know who any of those players are. Gets third. O1 gets fourth. Sites drop out in what position is that? Sites in seventh, eighth.
Mm. Yeah,
Interesting.
4 of 6 players SRG in the finals. What more can you say?
Yep. Apex South, where I know things went a little haywire. Actually, the Gaming Gladiators, who had won every single event coming into this, got bracket reset in the finals by the newly signed Meta Power,
Mm. Oh,
featuring Balleries getting his revenge. He was formerly on Gaming Gladiators. They dropped him for Abs Crazy, who I've heard is very good.
yeah.
But
Not not quite good enough apparently. I'm just kidding. But they what is this? I'm trying to understand what this first series was in the finals. It was almost a reverse spaceman sweep, which was denied by the timeout where Meta Power won game 7 and then Meta Power continued to just win 4 games on the bounce for for a total of 5 straight in a row to win the whole
yeah.
series. That is one of the strangest box scores I've ever seen in Rocket League.
Yeah. But yeah, Meta Power goes to the upper bracket, loses to Game Gladiators in the upper finals, takes out someone else, Godspeed, in the lower finals, and then
That's the
gets
best
the bracket
esport.
reset.
That's the best
God,
esport org name I've ever heard.
Godspeed.
Godspeed, 2 separate words. That's incredible. There.
What's the deal with all the minions teams? Everyone's been inspired by Cuxer. We have Kaka's minions in OC. We have Asphyx's minions in APAC.
It's a buff, honestly.
Yeah.
They got top 4.
Minions OP.
Except
Next,
for
we're
the
gonna
actual
get what's the dude from some movie? It's Steve Carell.
Gru.
Yeah, Gru's minions. It's just random people, and their logo's like the little minion guy. What's the movie called? Despicable Me.
Despicable Me.
There we go. I'm losing my mind. I'm sorry. Um.
We've crossed the hour threshold. It gets bad.
Oh God, we still have a ways to go. EU closed qualifiers was something else. So, as you know, with the format, 8 teams go into the closed qualifier based on their point ranking. It's the 9th through 16th teams in total points go into the closed qualifier.
Mhm.
And then 8 teams fight through the open qualifiers with anyone and everyone who wants to try to qualify to make these closed qualifier. 6 of the 8 teams that qualified through closed came from the opens, which I believe is the most ever.
Mhm.
So the teams that you'd expect to make it, Misfits squeaked through, Luminosity went through easy. 00 Nation missed it. Williams Resolve missed. Guild missed. Former Cuxer's Minions missed. Navi missed. Heroic went 0-3.
Yeah, one of those is not like the others, though.
Who would that be?
Heroic.
Well, yeah, Heroic didn't make a single event last time.
Yeah. But point definitely taken. Europe continues to be just absolutely bonkers. And I'm trying to think of these teams that qualified, how many of them were actually together last. I don't. This is just such an interesting group of teams. I don't know if you want to go through the teams that actually qualified.
I will. I'll go in order of how they did. So Luminosity 3-0, the new SK Gaming, which I believe is the same roster they had in the winter of Econ, Fruity, and Carrion, made it. So Fruity is back.
Yeah, 3 players we have not seen in RLCS 3 and 3 players we barely saw in RLCS X.
Yes.
So what the hell?
Wild, Saw, and Wolves Esports goes 3-1. Saw is though Mike Boy and Oli. I don't think that's really surprised that they made it. It's a solid roster.
Yeah, who had a really, really good off season too.
Wild is Crispy, Simus, and Acro. 3 players I have legitimately never heard of in my life.
Yep, similar to the story across the pond in Friends. Who the heck are these guys? But happy they made it.
Yeah, good for them. Wild is an org that has been in RLCS, but none of these players have. And then my personal favorite to make it through, they've tried every time. They've never made the closed qualifier. They finally make the closed qualifier. They make main event. Wolves Esports, my boy Tadpole with Rezi and their new pickup Hyder go through 3-1, beating Guild, Guild, Liquid, and Misfits in the process, only losing to 00 Nation. So that's a great run.
Is this a first time that we've gotten to talk about a triple trouble player on this podcast?
No, because Bluey existed.
He existed, but he didn't qualify for an event other than the one he auto qualified for.
That is true.
We barely get to talk about the fact that Colin's a triple trouble fan. I don't know if you guys know this, but the reason that Colin is a Queso fan is because he was originally a Calyx fan. And because Calyx played with, did he play with Rise and Joyo?
He played with Joyo, and then Rise played with Tadpole.
Okay, yeah, that strange amalgamation of players on Queso is why Colin is a Queso fan, but it all stems back to Triple Trouble. But we don't get to talk about Triple Trouble because they all just died.
Yes,
but
they did.
Apparently, Tadpole's resurrected.
We actually did talk about Triple Trouble at one point because Ronicky recreated the team name, but they didn't do anything.
Yeah, they did barely. They looked okay and then had personality issues.
Yeah, but I'm happy with the Welsh god Tadpole making main event again.
Now that he's reborn, is he Frog?
No.
Okay.
I will say I watched some of their games. I watched their shoes against Misfits. It was. I'm not expecting them to do much in that event. Not gonna lie. Hyder was looked very nervous, but they got the job done.
Giovanni Spagnuolo.
What an Italian name.
That's my new favorite player.
And then the teams that went 3-2, Liquid making their first event. Happy for them. No more sad chronic tweets.
Yeah.
I am sad that 00 Nation didn't get to qualify, but that was a good series. I think they reverse swept 00 in round 5. And 00, I think, got reverse swept in Swiss as well. Yeah.
Wow.
So tough for
Last
them.
last 2 games in overtime too for Liquid.
Yeah. I think Liquid even came back from down like 2 goals in one of those games as well.
Mm. God, dude, this is so much better for scoreboard Stevening.
Uh, the Swiss.
I feel so good just clicking through these. I feel like I know everything.
Oh my god, it's so much better than bracket. Misfits. Lost to SK, beat Pepitos Canyons, beat BS Plus, lost to Wolves, and then clutched up, coming back against Guild in Game 5.
It's not the 3rd regional. They can't choke yet.
Yes,
I
I
gotta
was
put these.
listening to the Guild casters. They were so sad.
Poor Guild. Do they have Hispanic casters?
No, it's still the very British people. I was
Okay.
also listening to my favorite caster of all time. I think his name's Danny Boy on Team Liquid.
Team Liquid.
He might be my favorite caster of all time.
Yeah, he's the best.
And then BS Plus returns to RLCS with Freaky, Raziers, and Alexit. They picked up a Frenchie. They qualify. That's the formula.
Yeah, drop a German, get a Frenchie. It's also interesting they had a negative game score. And still made it.
Interesting. But yeah, congrats to, we kind of referenced it a little bit in the intro, but Fruity, Freaky, Tadpole, 3 veterans returning for the first time in RLCS 3. I hope begrudgingly call it. Main event time.
Main event time. Okay, you can't tell me that when you hear the casters try and stumble over RLCS 21-22 that you can't appreciate how clean RLCS 3 sounds.
All right, so I'm going to go through the matchups here that we have. We're going to make our predictions. And then last up, we're going to fly through some European power rankings just to stay consistent.
Oh my god. I completely forgot about that. Europe's going to be exciting to power rank though.
Yes, but we're going quickly because I'm hungry.
Okay, you take top bracket this time.
Okay. So I'm just going to go through here. We have Not Cloud9 versus BS Plus, Carmine versus Semper, Dig versus Endpoint Wild, and then Evil Geniuses versus Liquid, Misfits Vitality, BDS Wolves, and Luminosity SK.
Why did I give you top?
Do you want to do you top, me bottom, and then next for regional 2 we'll flip?
Oh yeah. So for Europe, okay. Round 1, I'm going not Cloud9, X Queso, whatever you want to call them.
I'm putting it in as Cloud9.
Yeah. Question.
Yes.
Are they a group stage? I mean, are they a group format team?
Well, they did perfectly fine in bracket runs, so no.
Yeah, they've already done the double of them. Yeah, but they're gonna win. Carmine Semper.
All French Semper, Carmine with Nolly.
Even though it's not the same team, something about Carmine makes me want to barf. So I'm going Semper. Dignitas Sa. I'm going Sa. I think they're a hot team. Dignitas like the lower bracket, so why not go there?
H's? There's 3 H's in Sa.
3 H's. Wild Endpoint. Wild do have the Lithuanian buff. So that is tempting. But I'll go Endpoint.
Endpoint with Archie.
Endpoint with Archie. Actually, really excited. I'm excited to see both Semper with Exotic and Endpoint with Archie. I think those are going to be 2 very interesting. Yeah. No, I'm not excited to see that. Do you want me to do the
So
lower
then,
bracket now, or you want to do
yeah,
up?
so you have BS Plus versus Carmine.
Oh man. Be it no, Carmine, sad. Can't do that. And then I have Dignitas, Wild.
Versus Wild.
Hmm. Let me go player for now. I'm just kidding. Dignitas.
All right, my predictions. I have Endpoint versus Team Liquid. I Team Liquid, congrats on making the event. They still look like just three cracked children playing on a field. They don't really look like a team. I'm going Endpoint or Evil Geniuses.
Rough bracket for Liquid's first appearance too.
Yeah, I'm going Evil Geniuses. We have Misfits Vitality. This might be the hardest one we have.
This is
Misfits with a tough run through lowers. They're technically the higher seed than Vitality, despite coming through the qualifier. Vitality with Redosin. I'm going new roster buff. I'm going Vitality.
wow. Are we a pro
Sorry.
Vitality podcast now?
No, but BDS is gonna beat Wolves. And Luminosity is gonna beat SK, and then unofficial prediction, lose to BDS in round 2.
Luminosity Classic, yes.
So I have Team Liquid versus Misfits. Did they play in the qualifier?
No.
No. I'm gonna go Misfits. I don't think they're
They
getting
did.
last.
They did both lose to Wolves. If that gives you anything.
So if Wolves beats SK, I'm doing it. I'm giving the Wolves over SK. That's not a bad draw for them.
Just so they can make the deep run.
They play like Semper or the Queso next, which would probably not go well. But yeah, that's our picks. EU Power Rankings. Number 1, go.
Queso 9. Cloud Queso.
Queso 9. BDS.
Ooh. Where are you predicting them to land after this tournament? Like what kind of finish are you anticipating
For BDS,
for BDS?
top 2.
Top 2. Ooh. Anything else is a failure?
Yeah.
Anything else? If they don't win the event, they're going to get berated for dropping Mark.
They are, but also look at their bracket. They have Wolves, then they have Luminosity, which is tough.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'd run into Vitality, Misfits, or Endpoint, most likely. And I think they beat any of those teams. That puts them into the upper finals versus probably either Queso 9 or like Dig.
Yeah, I can't
Or
imagine.
Endpoint.
I
Like
can't imagine
the lower half, I think, is an easier side.
Can't imagine what a BDS honeymoon looks like with Seku. Jeez
It's
Louise.
just RLCSX again.
Yeah. Number 3. I feel like there's a pretty big gap after those top 2. At least if you're going off winter major form. If you were sort of like looking at things holistically, I guess you'd have to say Dignitas. I'm pretty sure if you looked at the standings, it would also be Dignitas.
Yeah. I think
Did
so.
they get a coach? Or this has not been announced yet?
I don't think so. They haven't announced anything.
Yeah.
I think seeding wise, I think Evil Geniuses is technically the second seed based on last 3 because they did the second best of any EU team at the major.
Yeah, they popped.
They did beat Dignitas.
Yeah. Reverse sweep. Get a coach.
Which leads me to putting Evil Geniuses 4.
Okay.
But, known Evil Genius hater Colin puts Evil Geniuses 4.
Yeah.
Consistency.
known Archie lover puts endpoint fifth.
I'm also an Archie lover, so I'm plus this. So we just put our major teams up again. I think it's the same thing we did in NA, but I think pretty much anyone would do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go Luminosity 6.
I like that.
The
I like
the
that a lot.
thing is with Europe, right? A lot of teams we would consider putting in this power rankings didn't qualify for the event, like Guild, like 00, like Williams. They're not here. Can you put them top 10 if they're not in the event? I don't think so.
No, I would not. Especially Williams looking like they made a negative move. And then Guild, I guess, also looked like they made a negative move, even though I back that in the future. 7.
Yeah. We might have to dip into them because I don't think we're putting. We might have to put someone that didn't qualify in this because
I'm
I
going.
don't
I'm
think we
going.
could put
I'm gonna get.
BS Plus or Wolves.
I'm gonna get Semper out of out of. Oh wait, Semper or Misfits?
Semper, Misfits, Vitality, Carmine.
Yeah, I don't need to hear
I
the
think
last
is
two.
what we have. He just hates the French.
I do. I really do. Um, I Misfits have burned me too many times. I'm going Semper.
He hates the French, but he goes for the all French roster.
Yep.
I'll go Misfits.
Mm-hmm.
At least for regionals 1 and 2, tanking Misfits in regional 3.
Yeah. If I could buy stocks in Rocket League Team Success, which I guess is just betting, I would bet on Misfits failure.
If there was a Rocket League betting, I'd be a rich man. You would not, based on your
No,
prediction.
no. Oh, this is back to me.
Back to you. For number 9. Vitality Carmine. It's your only options unless you're going to someone who didn't qualify. Or if you want to go like Team Liquid or Saw.
I'm going Saw. That's easy. I'm going Saw.
Yes.
That is. Oh man, you shouldn't have given me that option. I mean, literally head to head. So destroyed them both. Take that,
Yeah,
France.
that is true. I don't hate the Saw roster.
I mean, they didn't destroy Vitality, to be fair, and Vitality probably belong in the top 10.
Yeah, I'm
But
putting Vitality 10.
yeah. Oh man. This is interesting. Europe is interesting.
Europe's a mess.
Yeah.
So going down, we have Queso 9, BDS, Dignitas, EG, Endpoint, Luminosity, Smper, Misfits, Sa, and Vitality.
Mm-hmm. 5 of the 10 teams made changes in the offseason that we have in our top 10. And then a whole bunch more that did make changes didn't perform. So going to be a whole new look for Europe. Obviously, Queso completely dominated the region last split. Looking to BDS to be... I mean, Dignitas could challenge too. I think it'll probably be a 3-horse race.
Yeah. Actually, 4-horse race, Wolves. Wolves are going to fight.
I think this is the most excited I've been going into a European split this season, though.
Should be interesting. I don't know how to feel going into a split where my team is number 1 on the power rankings. It also is changing orgs.
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about this. I have a bunch of Queso decals.
Unprecedented Colin feelings.
My decals in Rocket League are just waste now. I have a ground 0 decal and a Queso decal.
We had Queso at 9 going into the winter. Isn't that crazy that they're like the undisputed 1 now?
Crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you've made it this far, You are a hero to society and the Rocket League community as a whole. Thank you so much for watching. If you even made it past the opening intro, you're a goat. Looking forward to this event. Back in the swing of the regular season, or the actual regular season. We will see you all next time.
Peace, y'all. Oh man, we gotta figure out something. You are so dumb.
I just looked at that. It's so dark.